what I want to be, and I'm to your disposal all this camp long, and you can come to me and I will take you through any problem that you think you might have. As far as the class is concerned, hey Neil, because I'm curious about this. Do I get to do a class? Am I doing a class?
You could do, yeah.
So here's a class that I would like to do, so you know. Although I did it the first year, I'd like to do the vocal basics class again. And really, you know, run through all the basics, talking about singing through the registers, how to take care of your voice, and how to sing way higher and how to sing way lower and not hurt yourself. Those things. And then the other thing that I want to do, and it really was from Dave, because last year I sang a song, and I don't know if you remember this or not, but I sang a song, and Dave was talking about my phrasing, and asked if I had some suggestions about how you could rhythmically phrase different. And I've gotten big into that this year with all of my students back home. And so I'd like to do a vocal basics class, and in that same class, spend a little time talking to you about vocal phrasing. And what that means is that I want to teach you how to sing both on the downbeat and on the upbeat. And I want you to understand what that means, because being able to sing on the upbeat and really understanding what that feels like will change you forever as a singer, I promise. I promise. Absolutely, it will put the fire into your singing. So those are some of the things I want to do. You just walked in, Dave, but I was just saying, you remember last year you asked me about my phrasing and if I had any suggestions about rhythmically phrasing when you played the guitar. And I gave kind of a, well, you know, you sort of set up the meter and it's kind of hard to sing against that. But I really thought about it the whole year from that one question. And so I put together a whole class that has to do with vocal phrasing. So based upon the question that you asked me last year, just wanted you to know.
What time are you doing so I can try to attend?
I don't know.
You know what? We can do that instead of the performance thing this afternoon, or split it with it.
You can have me do it any time during the camp. If you want me to do it in a couple of days or from now or any, you know, whatever fits for your schedule, I'm fine with that. All right. So that's kind of, you know, that's what I've got in mind. I've got the keyboard here. Anybody that wants to come in and work with me individually, any group of people that want to come and work with me and work on their harmonies or how they put things together or anything that I can do, I'm here to do it for you.
Hey, Jim, so, because we have a couple of groups that wanted to come, do you have like a list of times so that we know?
I guess I can. I certainly
can. It would be 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon.
No, I meant for his private.
That would be the window of time, I think.
2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon till the end of the day.
But that's when the other teachers are going to be doing stuff.
Okay.
Individually.
So that's how it'll be, and then you can also drop in.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, you know, these teacher things always go on kind of long, so I'll sing a song, and then we'll be done. But before I sing a song,
our next guy is not here anyway, so you have a little bit of time.
I have toys.
Yeah. Show him your toys.
Well, you've seen this toy last year, right?
Yep.
Right? Morrison digital trumpet. And I thought this was the coolest thing. Until.
Now we're
Yeah. Check this out.
What's that?
Well, first of all, there's a canister. You see this? And as I move my thumb, before I do this, as I move my thumb along these rollers back here, I get different octaves. Just like what you saw on that. Ah, gotta press the button. Is it too loud?
Yeah. It's just a little sun.
Yes. Shock you? Right? Check this out. Instant. Miles Davis. Because Miles Davis always put a mute in his trumpet. And if I go down low enough, it kind of gets clarinet-y like. So I go. Okay, one more. And just like everybody else, I'm doing it now. I'm actually doing 2 albums this year. And the way that the 2-album thing happened was that I was doing one album, and I went to this recording studio that had an amazing grand piano in it. And I have a workshop at the end of every month, and the musicians that I play with, that play at my workshop, they're really good. They're really great players. And so I took them to the studio that had the acoustic piano, and then the other stuff I was doing was with a friend of mine who I'm going to do the track that I'm going to play when I sing. I did with my friend. And he uses a thing called a Phantom X synthesizer. And he's amazing. He's a great programmer, and he's a brother, so he's got the whole R&B soul thing happening. And so pretty soon it just felt like that what I was getting out of one studio and I was getting out of the other studio, they were really different. So I decided that the studio with the grand piano would be all songs that, you know, I've told the story to some people. I was raised by my grandparents. My grandmother could sing 4 hours and never repeat a song, you know, just around the house doing housework. She had a beautiful voice. And my dad sang great too and loved Joe Williams and Sinatra and all those people. So I'm doing one album that's basically all about the songs that my grandparents and my dad sang. So they're all back in the day jazz standards. But I still play this. So here's the other sound. So I played all of these acoustic sounds that I'm getting out of the synthesizers, and it really worked. The guy with the Phantom X, who this track I'm about to play, I did with him. It's just so different that I just decided I would do like R&B and kind of jazz R&B, my generation stuff. So, anyway, who did the James Taylor tune last night? You did the James Taylor tune. I love James Taylor. So here's an array. This is not James. This is a James Taylor tune, but kind of my R&B vibe, if that makes any sense. Okay, so here we go. Let's hope I'm not too loud here when I press this button. Okay, too loud? Needed the shelter of someone's arms. There you were. Needed someone to understand my ups and downs. Baby, there you were. With sweet love and devotion, deeply touching my emotions. I wanna stop, thank you, baby. I wanna stop and thank you, babe. How sweet it is to be loved by you. How sweet it is to be loved by you. I close my eyes at night, wondering where would I be without you in my life. Everything before you was just a bore, and everywhere I went, well, I've been there before. You brighten up for me all my days with your love in so many ways. I wanna stop, thank you, baby. I wanna stop, thank you, babe. How sweet it is being loved by you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. How sweet it is being loved by you. It's the wrong sound. How sweet it is being loved by you. Whoa, whoa, yeah. How sweet it is being loved by you. Couple more times. How sweet it is being loved by you. How sweet it is being loved by you. One more time I say, how sweet it is being loved by you, yeah. do that kind of track on an album and then turn around and do, you know, The Glory of Love, you know. Should I do one more or something?
Yeah. You know what? Why don't we do the beginning vocal class, like right now?
Okay, I can do that.
I mean, but you can do another song if you want first. Let's just take up till 11:30 or noon.
Yeah.
You got everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
I can switch gears. One thing I want to do
We've got a
though.
captive audience. Keep it.
Yeah, they're here. Okay, good. There we go. Okay.
Coughing breath.
Air. First thing to talk about. Biggest #1 mistake in the world about singing high notes is putting too much building too much purse or pressure underneath your vocal cords to push up here. So the way the vocal folds work is there are two resisting bands. The folds are pushing together from the sides. That's super important for all kinds of things that you can do with your range, and what you can do with your sound and what you can do with your tone, and how to make yourself sound different. How to sound like you're singing way louder, but not putting a lot of pressure on. Okay, there's 3 registers for the voice. Chest, mix, and head. Mix is in the middle. Mix is what it obviously sounds like, some mixture of what head voice and chest voice is. That's kind of true and kind of not true, because what really happens is the vocal folds push together and they make a connection. And they make this adjustment, you're singing on the full length of your vocal folds when you're down on the lowest part of your range. And then as you start to sing higher, if I go, ooh, if I go through my register like that, if I do that, my vocal folds came together, were thick, and then they thinned out. They thinned out as thin as they can go. The vocal folds are vibrating back and forth from front to back and back to front, and then the back halves dampen. And then as they dampen, they keep on getting shorter and shorter, and you're getting on a smaller and smaller portion of your vocal folds. That's why higher notes feel different than lower notes, because you're singing on a different portion of your vocal folds, less and less. So you're getting on less and less of your fold as you go higher. So let's talk physics here for a minute. Can you put more to less? No. So what does that mean to sing a high note? It means that you have to understand that as you don't push yourself and force yourself to sing higher and higher notes like people think. Instead, you have to pull the air pressure away as you're going higher. So if I'm going, if I'm here, oh, I'm in my chest voice. Oh, right there, I just shifted. I'm in the beginning of my mix. Oh, now I'm going to go higher. Oh, I'm still in mix. But pretty soon, something's going to happen. Now, you have to become like a magician, like slide it, you know, the quarter's here, abracadabra, and we know that he's really good, the quarter's really in his hand. But we actually think it's magic and the quarter really disappeared. Well, you kind of have to be that way as a singer. You have to, ooh, right there is where my voice breaks. So if I'm, oh, I have to be really intelligent about what I'm going to do next from that moment. See, let me use an oo vowel sound, and I'll explain the why of oo, o, e, and a here in a minute. If I go, ooh, need a breath. Ooh, right? So I just went up and down through my whole register, and I went through chest, mix, and head. I always think of it as this way. When you talk about chest, mix, and head, it's like Neapolitan ice caramel. It's like you've got these 3 flavors, chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla. But if you put if you put caramel over it, you don't see those 3 different flavors. It just looks like a chocolate wafer. What am I talking about? I'm saying that if you can make certain elements in the tone of your voice sound a certain way, people can't tell that you made a shift through the registers. And that #1 element is the element of tone and how you get tone. So now if I do this, if I make my vocal cords really breathy and light, you know, like "Happy Birthday, Mr. President," that thing. You know, if I go, ah, same notes. Ah. So what happened? I bunched my vocal cords up from the sides. If you can pull your cords together more, and I'm going to show you how in a minute, but I'm just explaining the concept here first. If you can push your folds together more from the sides or get a sound and understand that feeling and then call it up as a thought in your mind, you can change your tone. And singers do it all the time without any knowledge like what I'm doing now. You know, you start, singers, people who sing start coming up with their own little things about how they're accessing different parts of their voice, or, you know, I'm going to sing like Stevie Wonder when he sings like Fat Albert, you know, he's got the Fat Albert sound when he sings, or I'm going to sing very light the way Barbra Streisand hits a beautiful note up on that sound. There's different ways you start to think that way, but actually there's a science to it, and I'm talking about that science. And the science is that the chords push together from the sides for tone. And as the chords bunch up and bunch up tighter, you'll get a more resonant sound. So somebody with a very resonant tone is bunching up their chords. They may not know they're bunching up their chords. You may not know you're bunching up your chords, but you are. And when you sing really breathy, you're doing just the opposite. You're not bunching up your chords. You're making your chords looser and looser and looser, and you're putting more and more air in between your vocal folds. So it's, now, everybody stick your thumbs underneath your chin and swallow. Feel all that action? All that movement? Okay, I always like to kiddingly say to my students, fancy word alert. And I only ever say the fancy words once, and after that we call those the strip muscles. Digastric hyoids. The digastric hyoids are the muscles that are involved with pulling and pushing these muscles that are going here. Just want you to know I actually know what I'm talking about. Sounds all, you know, big deal. But I like to just call them the strip muscles because I don't like to get technical about things, because you get lost in the technical and not right to the nitty-gritty of understanding this. So why did I ask you to feel this? Because when those move, they pull your larynx up. When you pull your larynx up, you pull the vocal folds out of their position that the air is pushing up through, and your cords can disconnect. So if you're trying to sing higher and your larynx is rising and these muscles are involved in the process, you've decreased your range. You can't sing as high. You're going to be able to sing a lot higher if you can deactivate these strip muscles. And also, you know, it's like stick a thumb underneath here and put your finger on your Adam's apple and feel as you're singing higher and lower with a vowel. Feel if you're feeling this move much. If this is rising up a lot, you feel it rising? If you feel it rising, then that's a tricky sound. Yeah, that's good. So what we want to do is we want to come up with exercises that help deactivate these muscles. There are some really good ones. And it doesn't matter if you can't do some of the sounds I'm about to ask you to do. It doesn't matter, because there's another sound. Some people can do lip rolls. Some people can do tongue trills. Some people can't do tongue trills. Doesn't matter. And if you can't do either one, there's a third sound. But let's start with my favorite, is the lip roll. So can you make the sound that a horse makes when it's tired? Can you go? Right. Now, put your fingers in your cheeks lightly, and like a baby blowing bubbles in the water, you go. Okay? That's an amazing exercise. And if people say, what do you use for a warm-up? Incidentally, does everybody know who Kenny Rankin is?
Yeah.
He's one of my favorite singers. James Taylor and Kenny Rankin are two of my favorite male singers.
So what does this do?
I'm gonna show you. You know, but anyway, I wanted to tell you, I saw this interview once about Kenny Rankin, and they asked Kenny, who's my hero, and you've seen all this stuff I know about voice, and they asked Kenny Rankin, do you have warm-up exercises before you go out? He goes, oh yeah. He goes, I go, He says, then I'm ready. Which terrified me, to tell you the truth. Because he's my hero, and you know. Anyway, what does this do? So I'm going to do, you can use one hand now if you can, right? And touch your Adam's apple at the same time. So, you know, okay, so what happens is, if you make kind of like a, I'm looking for a baby bumblebee, that dumb buzzard sound, you go, this drops. It drops the larynx, all right? And so does, it sort of counterbalances the larynx. So as you're going up higher, as you're going up to a higher note, if the tendency is for your Adam's apple to rise, which is going to pull the vocal folds out of the good horizontal position that we need for the air to push up underneath them correctly, this is an exercise that helps you sort of feel how to balance the air, not push too much air through the chords, as stupid as the sound sounds, and also it discourages the larynx from rising a little bit, encourages the larynx to go down a little bit. Now, don't get me wrong, you don't want to push your larynx way down, any more than you want to pull it up. You want this to really stay balanced in the mid position of your neck, as much as you can. So when you go, that's all about helping counterbalance this and feeling what that feels like, and then taking any sound that becomes success. Like when I'm working with different students, some students will tell me that an E vowel sound is the easiest sound to sing, and another student will say it's the hardest sound to sing. And another student will say the ah vowel sound is the easiest and the E is the hardest, you know. And the reason why is what people are used to feeling in their throat. Now, if you take these 6 sounds, which I make all my students do until they're tired of me, and that's oo, o, e, and a. What's really happening there is that you're changing the shape of the vocal tract. So from the open airspace of your vocal folds, on up through your neck, out to the front of your mouth, this open airspace is your instrument. And if we were to look at a violin or a guitar, we would say that the strings are the vocal cords, and the body is this open airspace that we're talking about. So literally, each vowel sound, because instruments sound differently because they're different shapes, right? Violin is shaped like a violin, a trumpet is shaped like a trumpet, and so forth, right? Oo is shaped like oo, o is shaped like o, e. So if I go oo, o, e, e, when I sing those, that's the same note, yet it sounds different. Why does it sound different? Because the shape of my vocal tract is changing. And as the shape of my vocal tract changes, so is my instrument. So the other thing that's happening there is that when your instrument is, when you're singing a song and you've got lyrics, this thing's shooting off like an Uzi of all those different sounds, right? Because you've got all these different consonant vowel sound combinations. Ooh, oh, I, moo, mo, ma, mi, ma, me, goo, go, ga, gi, ga, ge, lu, lo, la, li, la, le, do, do, da, di, da, de, su, so, sa, si, sa, se, ku, ko, ka, ki, ka, ke. So if I put a different consonant in front of those same different vowel sounds, what's happening is that I'm interrupting the vocal tract at various different places, from the front of my tongue, do, do, da, di, da, de, ku, ko, ka, ke, to the back of my tongue, to the back of my throat, with a K. And then again, when you're singing songs and lyrics, that's constantly happening really fast. But what you want to do is you want to start with a vowel sound that is the most comfortable for you. I like oo, and I usually make my students sing oo because oo is a more narrow sound, and because I'm using it to help people sing through their range. Now, you're going to meet a lot of classical vocal instructors who are going to tell you that the ah vowel sound is the best one to use. And the reason why is because the ah vowel sound opens the throat really wide. And it creates the most beautiful sound. And it's true, they're not wrong. But it also creates the most pressure to sing up through your registers. So the first thing I like to do is get everybody to sing smoothly up through their range. And I think a narrow vowel sound is a better vowel sound to use to learn how to sing through your registers. The lip roll and the tongue trill. And now, can everybody roll their R's?
No.
Those of you who can, you're lucky, right? And if you can't roll your R's, Another thing you can, there's a couple tricks, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. If you've never been able to roll your R's, you can maybe sometimes trick your tongue by going thrick, thrack, thruck. Thrick, thrack, thruck. You go thrick, 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 thrack, thrack, thrack. Almost you go, where's that? Right? And maybe you can start to feel your tongue flutter by going thrick, thrack, thruck. And again, if you can roll your R's, take both a rolling R or a lip roll and slide it up and down through your range, which is a good quick warm-up before you go out on stage. And what you're looking for, again, is don't go hard. Don't go super hard. Go easy. Ooh. I didn't go, ooh. That's what happens. That's what hurts. But if you go, ooh, and then, hey kids, it's Mickey Mouse time. Ooh, and then back down again. You can start to feel, just start to get that smooth, easy motion. You hear all the great R&B singers and gospel singers that sing in churches. They do a lot of licks that start on the top and come down. And the reason why is they start in their head voice and come down into their chest voice, because physically what's happening, it's easier to sing low notes than it is to sing high notes. Not super low notes, but it's easier to sing lower in your range. And then, between male and female voices, women have a harder time getting down in their low chest, men have a harder time getting up in their highest head voice. That's just kind of, again, everybody's different. That's the norm, but there's things that are different than the norm. Okay, so I'm going to say it again now. The vowel sounds are oo, o, e, and a. You want to practice all of those shapes with silence. Ooh, right? Just to get the feeling of that. Okay, next step. Every note, it's really a 4-step event, but I always like to teach it as a 3-step event. Every note has a 3-step event. How you start it, how you hold it, and how you end it. Again, as a synthesizer player, they call it attack, sustain, and release. We're not going to call it attack. We're going to call it onset. Because the last thing I want to do is tell you to attack the beginning of the note. If you do, your larynx will rise and you'll activate those muscles. So, instead, you want to practice onsets. And if you have a microphone, you should practice with a microphone. So check this out. If I go, ooh, ooh, not ooh, but ooh, oh, e, which is the perfect time now to talk about breathing, right? Because you wouldn't expect a vocal instructor to give you a class on voice and not talk about breathing. We should do it. It's highly recommended. You start turning purple and looking really bad when you start breathing. And I'm just saying, you need makeup. You need people to take you around places. You're not going to be moving. You should probably do it. So believe it or not, when I'm teaching at home, I just a little bit talk about breathing the first lesson. And the reason that is again, I've been teaching now, it's embarrassing in the other way. It just reeks of old guy when I tell you how long I've been teaching. But I have been teaching for 50 years. That's how long I've been teaching. And the first 5 years of my teaching, I said this in the class in the first year that I got here, the first 5 years my first lesson was all about breathing. And then I learned after about 5 years, because I'm slow, and I realized that was building up that hard pressure underneath the voice that really, you talk about the things that I've talked about so far, get these different sounds. Oh, incidentally, if you can't do a tongue trill or a lip roll, let me throw the other sound in. It's just an NG sound. Say hung, like H-U-N-G, say hung. Now if you go hum, now all the sound is going to come through your nose. And to prove this coming through your nose, make a sound. If you're still making a sound when you squeeze your nose, you're doing it wrong. But if you stop, that's good, because what we're doing is the tongue is blocking the passage of air coming here and sending it through your nose. It's the one and only sound that you start with. But you can also do silence with that sound. And you can feel that easy thinness as you get up to the top. Right, so, and it worked. And the higher up in there that you go, see, I hear some real high notes over there, and you can start to feel that. That's important. Okay, but anyway, breathing is important, obviously. So I'm going to run through some breathing with you. You can still hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay, so here's the glass. I have a glass, empty glass. Turn on the faucet. The water goes down to the bottom of the glass, goes from the bottom of the glass to the top of the glass. Not from the top of the glass to the bottom, but some people breathe that way. We go like that and put air here. You're going to put air there, but last, not first. So instead, and you can feel more how your lungs work when you put your hands on your lower back. So maybe you want to stand for just a moment here, right? And if you take a breath, you can feel this just kind of low in your back, or you can feel expansion. You take this breath, and you can feel the air expand. Now, you don't want to belly breathe. You don't want to, like, go right here and lock. You don't want to be a yoga belly here, and you want to allow the air to come all the way up to the top. So you take the breath. So now here's my waist. The breath expands, and then let it come up into the chest. The intercostals here, the meat between the ribs. And like my favorite joke is, if you've ever been to the Outback, you know there's not much meat between the ribs. So you got to be able to take this breath and go. And then let it expand. And you want to feel that air like you're, at the beach or in the mountains when you're taking one of those great breaths of life, and you feel like you've really filled yourself up full of air, but not overfill yourself. Okay, so now you take that breath, and then we're going to do a snake kiss. We're going to go like this. We're going to go. And again, your onset, don't go and don't hit hard. Think about that onset and make a good onset and go. And just see how long comfortably you can do that hiss. That hiss that you're doing right now is that stream of air. The stream of air isn't really happening here at the tongue like it is with our hiss. It's going to happen right here up through the larynx that we're trying to keep from pushing up as we sing higher. So we take the breath and we go. Stop. Take a breath again. Now instead of hissing, stop. Now here's the next thing. I said the other thing is this: how you start the note, how you hold the note. We just did that. How you end the note. Now a consonant will end the note. So if you're saying a word of a consonant, it's going to stop your vocal cords. It's going to momentarily interrupt. But with a vowel, the way I want you to practice the exercise is to actually take a breath to stop the note. So you're going, ooh. Now I can't do this and talk at the same time, so I'll go like this to breathe in to take the note. So if I go, ooh, and then you just breathe in. And it's no shock to your body. It's nothing like that. It's Tai Chi out, and it's Tai Chi in. Everything is just a smooth, like nothing. Like it should feel like nothing. Natural singers look like they're doing nothing because that's the best way to sing. And that, as you go, ooh, and breathe in. Take a breath. Yeah. And I figured that out about 8,000 years ago when I was in a recording studio with somebody who was singing flat all the time. And I started saying, you know what? Just take a breath off the end of that note. You know, because we're animals of air, so we have, you can sit down again. We're animals of air, we have this tendency to go like this at the end. As we're running out of air, the air goes. You have a question?
Yeah. Does it matter if you're breathing in through your nose or your mouth?
That's a great question, and the answer is, everybody heard that, right?
Yes.
Doesn't matter if you breathe in your nose or your mouth. The nose is a natural filter, and it purifies the air, and it's more healthy, and it's more moist for your vocal folds. But lots of times you don't have time. You know, so when you don't have time, you have to take in the air through your mouth. So the answer is you do both. You know, if you got time to do it, you're sort of thinking about it, you can do it. Most of the time, you're probably going to take the breath through your mouth. In all honesty, I do. So, you know, I've had 4 mentor teachers in my life. 3 of them were vocal instructors, and 1 of them was an instrumentalist. Seth Riggs was one of them. Bobby McFerrin was one of them. And Bobby's concept and Seth's concept, it's like really different things. Lots of things agree. I'm not even going to talk about what might not agree. But Bobby has this whole concept about rhythmically breathing and taking in that breath is part of the rhythm of the melody line. So you never think, okay, I'm running out of air, now I'm going to take a breath and lose meter. You can't lose meter. So rather you're breathing in or you're breathing out, breath has to be part of the melody line. So if I'm going when I want to make breath part of the rhythm of this, like, now what I'm doing is I'm taking a breath on the downbeat, right? Or I can take a breath on the upbeat. And so that kind of that starts to coordinate, so you never paint yourself into a corner. So if you're singing something. When I was younger, my first teacher, she was a classical teacher, she was amazing. But she told me, okay, you know, I was singing, practicing arias and everything, and 200-year-old pieces and all of that kind of stuff. And, you know, you take a breath right there. Everybody's taking the breath there for the last 200 years. You guys get the breath right there. That's one thing. But when you're singing jazz, or you're singing R&B, or you're singing beat and pop music, that's not what happens. You're spontaneously doing things, and you might decide to hold a note longer. Well, what happens if you hold a note longer than where you can take a breath? Are you going to fall to pieces and you did something wrong? Oh no, I didn't take a breath. No, you have to be able to compensate for it and learn how to catch a quick catch breath. So what you do is you start to learn to get good air in you, through your mouth or your nose. And then, if you hold a note longer than you think it, I can only give you love that lasts forever, and a promise, well, I took a breath, and a promise to be near each time you call. Or I could have went, I can only give you love that lasts forever, and a promise to be near each time you call. I didn't take a breath, right? And so, you know, Sinatra was really good at singing really long phrases and not taking those breaths. But if you have to take a breath, it's not against the law. So you have to learn how to take what we call a sip breath. Just a quick, like that. And if you've got a note that's a quarter note, well then you make it an eighth note and you take an eighth note's worth of breath. Or a 16th note worth of breath inside. And you have to be able to be rhythmical. Now, remember I said I wanted to talk a little bit about phrasing, right? So let's make sure that we've got what's going on here so far. There's a chest, there's a mix, there's a head. As you sing higher, you have to allow the air to get thinner and push less purse under there. It takes some exercises and some things to do to really get good, but a tongue trill, a lip roll, or an NG with some sirens can help you for what I can do with you right here in this class quickly without sitting you down and vocalizing you listen to your specific problems. You know, those are things that you can start to do to improve yourself. Right?
So I'm finding that I think I'm getting adequate breath in. It's a feeling that I'm releasing too much breath out.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's taken me a while, but I've determined that that's my biggest.
So get in front of a microphone and go, ooh, and if you hear on that microphone, you're letting way too much air out. So you got to learn to be stingy with your air. You don't need to push a lot of air through. So that's exactly right. You're getting 5 miles to the gallon instead of 25 miles to the gallon, even though you got a full tank of air. You're letting your air out too fast. That's a common problem. And it also decreases range, and it also wears your cords out faster. And you also get tired quicker, and your cords get drier because you're blowing air through them, right?
Is there an exercise that would kind of help to maybe hold, allow the muscles to hold a little bit?
Yeah, there's a lot of exercises. But take a new vowel sound and hold a microphone and hear if you're windy. Or put your, if you don't have a microphone, put your hand in front of your mouth. Ooh, and see how much air is in your hand. And then now try it. If you feel tons of air hitting you, you're blowing too much air. So what do? Get stingier. Sit there and experiment. Ooh. Try not to blow air out. See what happens. Ooh. The other thing is, to be fair, I'll tell you that in different ranges, more or less air will come out. Ooh. Hardly any air at all is coming out of me by the time I get out. I'm feeling almost nothing on that. Almost zero. So, and the lip roll, be stingy with your air even when you're doing the lip roll, so you can start to feel the balance and keep this balanced and bring things up and down, right? Take the vowel sounds, sing them as onsets in different places in your range. Again, if you can on a microphone. Ooh, oh, e, ah, a, ooh, oh, e, ah, a, ooh, oh. Keep going. E, a. Go one more time now. All the guys in front of you. What's the matter with you guys? Why won't you sing? What's wrong with you? So the other, again, without, we all want to go to lunch and stuff, so I'm not going to keep you here forever, but I'm really into what I'm going to show you. So we're going to do this. Now, I have to really explain this. Here's the biggest mistake when I ask everybody to do this. I'm going to ask you to clap, to tap and clap. Watch me. Let me show you what the problem is. You already did it. Not really. Okay, now I'm going to explain it, and then I'm going to do it again. This is how you learn how to really phrase great. Don't divide it into 8 notes. Divide it into 2 quarter notes with an 8th note between the 2 quarter notes. Here's what I'm talking about. And you've got to feel it, not academically understand what I just said. So this is what I'm saying. My foot went down, and my hand clapped, and my foot didn't come up. Because the tendency is to want to do this. Oh, wait, this way. Right? You want to do that. You pull your hands apart, your foot will be up, you put your hands down, you'll clap. That's going to be the tendency. That's what you're going to want to do. You'll never learn how to phrase great if you do it that way. You're always going to be a little bit, hey, never is baloney, Maybe you will, but I see it as a problem. Okay. So now watch, here's the difference. Now here, I always start off to make this thing as simple as possible. Ultimately, I like to take a real song, but we're going to use Mary Had a Little Lamb to get the concept of this. Now watch what I'm going to do. Just watch me, don't try to do it. This is easy. Watch my foot, my hands. Mary had a little lamb. Easy enough, right? Pretty easy. Watch what I'm going to do now. right? Now watch. Mary had a, Mary had a, Mary had, Mary had, Mary had, Mary had. That's how you learn how to really phrase. Now watch this. Fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars. Now watch this. Fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars. Now watch this. Downbeat to the upbeat. Now here's how Sinatra really phrased. Fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars. See what I did?
Yeah.
That's how I know how to phrase, Dave, the way that I phrase. That should have been the answer last year. I knew how to do it last year. You know I did because you saw me do it, right? But this is what's really happening. Now, so what I just did again, I'm going to say it, is I'm asking you to feel 2 quarter notes, to feel the quarter note on the downbeat, and to feel the quarter note on the upbeat, divided by an 8th note. It feels like we're doing 8-note divisions, but we're truly doing 2 quarter notes, truly feeling how to keep it on the upbeat, or truly feeling how to keep it on the downbeat. Now there's something even hipper than that once you can do this, and that's to understand groups like Tower of Power and James Brown. Because what they did is they divided it again. They divided it into a 16th note feel. So like in Tower of Power, the drummer is going 1 and a 2 and a 3 and 4 and a shot, 16th note feel. Bass players going 16th note feel. Horn players are starting to go 1 and a 2 and the horn players go, they're going to hit on the and, or they're going to hit on the E. Like, so now the that's when you hear those really, really tight horn sections. And you can, as a singer again, you can start to understand it because even the singer in Tower of Power starts to feel that. So the secret to Tower of Power, and I know this to be true, is that everybody's locked on the 16th note feel and understanding what ghost notes are within that 16th note feel. I'm just saying, all right? To go back to what we're doing, how can you apply this? Well, luckily, I am a guitar player, so I'm not just a singer who's saying I don't understand that. I don't know how you guys do it with a guitar player, and do it. But no, the same thing that I'm doing here, where I'm setting my body up as a drummer. You can set your body up with a repetitious physical rhythm. You're doing that all the time in finger picking. You're going da 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 doom 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 doom. Any combination of those different rhythmical feels. You need to use a metronome. Does anybody have a metronome on their phone?
Yeah.
Set your metronome at 76.
76
Is it on 76?
76. Is that a reason for it?
Yeah, well, I did that.
What the?
Yours is on 76.
That's creepy.
Maybe it's because you're a drummer and you had it set on 76.
That's true.
And you had it set on 76 because
I use it for drums.
It's a comfortable thing. Well, everything's about drums. Okay, if it's not about harmony, if it's not about chord scale structure, it's about the rhythm. And, I always tell, people ask me, parents say, what can I do to give my young child the best advantage? And they all want to hear you say keyboard. Because every parent wants their child to play keyboard. And the last thing they want to hear is but truly, you want to make your kid a musical genius, put them on keyboards and drums right off, even if that never becomes their instrument. I have I can play the keyboard, I can play my vocal exercises in a coma because I played them for so many years for so many students. But I've never really had a passion for the keys other than arranging or sitting down and sort of like figuring out how things voice. I'd rather play a guitar or a horn, something weird. But keyboard is the greatest foundation to get them a harmonic idea, harmonic concept of what's going on, and then drums, rhythm. Put those two things together, you'll make the greatest musicians. And then teach them how to sing. And you become musicians.
When I was a kid, I was very fortunate. My parents signed me up for something called Orff lessons, Carl Orff. And it was basically like very simple rhythm stuff and like xylophone, tuned percussion, and handbells. So it's kind of the concept of music before piano.
Right, and it's physically, motor skill-wise, a very easy thing for a child to do.
Right, so I don't know if that's widely available.
I think, yeah, but that's a good idea. For me, you know what my passions, you know, one of my other passion, I don't do it much anymore, I'm an old guy again, but you know, I started doing martial arts around the same time I started doing music. And so, martial arts, music, tennis, and dancing the mambo and singing are all the same. It's muscle memory. You know, regardless of what the end result is of those different practices, it's about muscle memory and ingraining muscle memory in you. So I came up with an idea. I actually had a method that I taught. I used to teach a lot of teachers, and I had it out in 35 schools for about 5 years. And it's not that the word boom chick wasn't used before, but I called my method the boom chick method. And what that was is what we're doing right here, right now. And then I thought another thing to do with kids is to find just an easy in to any instrument. If you can go, you can play a trumpet, you know. And like this is boom chick. Pretty soon this is boom chick. You know, and so you can start to get them playing one chord, doing that. You can pick up a guitar, and you can find the easiest one-note chord in the world, and you can get them to go boom chick with their right hand, or you can hand them a uke. You know, which incidentally for kids, a uke is, I love that you said that, because I think it's the perfect instrument, because it's a little tiny thing for a little tiny hand. And though, I don't know if you know it, but if you play the uke, I mean, if you play guitar, you already know how to play uke. It's the same for the fingering of the first 4 strings on the guitar are the same fingerings on the uke. Except for a baritone uke, the names are different, but they're the exact, you know, if you know how to play an F chord like this, you play it on there, it's the same thing. What time is it?
It's 11:34.
Okay, so we're going to wrap it up. So here's my last thing. My last thing is we're going to go like this. You're going to go like this. You're going to practice this. Your hand. Okay, you ready? Let's do this. Let's make Mary Had a Little Lamb. Just not the whole song too much. Let's sing the verse. Go like this. Mary had a little lamb. Now don't stop. No, don't sing it. Now we're going to do it the other way now. We're going to sing Mary Had a Little Lamb against the hand clap instead of against the foot. Ready? Mary had a little lamb. Now switch. Go back. Mary had a little lamb. Now go the other way. Yeah. Hey, the guys in front that didn't want to sing the high notes just came. Okay, so that's not going to happen this very moment, but that's the beginning of just starting to understand how to phrase that way. And I have a bunch of videos that I broke this down on that I will send through Karen. And there it goes.